In 2021, All Elite Wrestling wasn't just fighting for ratings, headlines, or market share. It was fighting for belief. Belief that a modern wrestling company could tell long-term stories in an age of short attention spans. Belief that characters could grow, fail, and redeem themselves over years instead of weeks. And belief that professional wrestling could still feel special after a global shutdown nearly broke the industry in half. This was the year AEW stopped being the alternative and started becoming a destination. A year of soaring highs, embarrassing lows, unforgettable moments, and one story that had been quietly building since day one, waiting for its perfect ending. As 2021 began, All Elite Wrestling stood at a strange intersection of momentum and uncertainty. The company had survived its first full year during a global pandemic, producing weekly television inside empty or partially filled venues, relying on atmosphere, creativity, and faith from its audience. While WWE leaned on decades of brand loyalty, AEW leaned on something far more fragile: trust. Trust that fans would stay invested even without crowds, without spectacle, and without the safety net of nostalgia. At the center of this fragile ecosystem stood Kenny Omega. By the end of 2020, Omega had crossed a line, betraying Jon Moxley, aligning himself with Don Callis, and stepping fully into the role of the arrogant, manipulative final boss. He wasn't just AEW World Champion. He was something else entirely. He was the belt collector, a man who treated wrestling promotions like conquered territories and championships like trophies. And in doing so, he became the gravitational force around which AEW's entire year would orbit. Kenny Omega's alliance with Don Callis didn't just redefine his character. It redefined AEW's ambition. When Omega began appearing on Impact Wrestling television, winning their world championship, and flaunting his influence across promotions, AEW quietly crossed a line few companies dared to approach. Wrestling was no longer confined to one universe. The Forbidden Door, a phrase once whispered like a myth, was now wide open. Back on Dynamite, Omega defended the AEW World Championship with the confidence of a man who believed he was untouchable. His match against Rey Fenix at New Year's Smash wasn't just a title defense. It was a statement. A reminder that no matter how villainous Omega became, the bell still rang, and when it did, he delivered at the highest possible level. Around him, AEW continued stacking its roster with purpose. Sting had arrived, not as a nostalgia act, but as a mentor to Darby Allin, guiding a reckless daredevil towards superstardom. Darby, in many ways, represented AEW's soul during the lockdown era. He wrestled like pain was currency, throwing himself into wars with men like Brian Cage, while the company asked him to carry the TNT Championship with pride. And even when AEW gave him a week off at Beach Break, it felt earned, not manufactured. AEW was learning pacing. It was learning restraint. Beach Break would be remembered less for its matches and more for what it symbolized. The six-man tag main event brought together AEW and Impact talent in a way that felt organic rather than promotional. But it was the ending that changed everything. Kenna appearing to attack Jon Moxley wasn't just a surprise. It was a declaration. New Japan Pro Wrestling, the industry's most protective fortress, was now part of the conversation. Suddenly, AEW wasn't just competing with WWE. It was collaborating with the world. This creative confidence carried into Revolution 2021, an event that perfectly captured AEW's duality. On one hand, Sting and Darby Allin delivered a wildly entertaining cinematic street fight that exceeded expectations. On the other, the exploding barbed wire death match between Omega and Moxley ended in an infamous failure that became impossible to ignore. The match itself was strong, brutal, and emotionally charged, but the final explosion fizzled, turning what should have been a triumphant villainous escape into an unintended comedy. AEW could have crumbled under the weight of that moment. Instead, it did something rare in modern wrestling. It moved forward. If Revolution exposed AEW's weaknesses, the weeks that followed showcased its adaptability. St. Patrick's Day Slam marked a turning point, particularly in the women's division. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa didn't just have a good match. They had a violent, bloody lights-out war that permanently altered how fans viewed women's wrestling in AEW. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't polished, but it was raw, emotional, and undeniable. At the same time, internal faction warfare intensified. MJF revealed his true intentions, betraying Chris Jericho and forming the Pinnacle. Blood and Guts finally arrived after a year-long delay, delivering 30 minutes of chaos, violence, and storytelling that felt appropriately earned. When MJF threatened to throw Jericho from the cage and then did it anyway, the message was clear. AEW wasn't interested in safety nets. Villains stayed villains. As crowds slowly returned, AEW's identity sharpened. Double or a Nothing 2021 felt like rebirth. Over 5,000 fans packed Daly's place, bringing with them an energy the company had been missing for over a year. Britt Baker finally captured the Women's World Championship. Jungle Boy earned a future title shot, and Kenny Omega continued to stand tall, his empire still intact. If there is a moment historians will point to as AEW's cultural peak, it arrived in the summer of 2021. The company returned to touring with Road Rager, shocked the world with Malachi Black's debut, and then did something no one truly expected. It launched Rampage and immediately made it matter. Christian Cage defeating Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship was shocking, but it was merely the appetizer. On August 20th, inside a sold-out United Center in Chicago, CM Punk returned to professional wrestling after 7 years. The reaction wasn't just loud, it was historic. Punk didn't attack anyone. He didn't cut a bitter promo. He smiled, soaked it in, and told the world he was home. AEW wasn't just winning wrestling fans anymore. It was winning moments. All Out 2021 followed, and somehow exceeded expectations. Punk wrestled Darby Allin in a match that bridged generations. Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson debuted within minutes of each other. The Lucha Brothers captured tag team gold in a steel cage classic. AEW didn't just feel hot, it felt unstoppable. Yet, through all of this chaos, one story remained quietly unfinished. Hangman Adam Page had been struggling since the company's first press conference. Self-doubt, fear of failure, fear of belonging. His journey wasn't flashy. It was painfully human. When Hangman finally embraced the Dark Order, when he finally earned another shot at Kenny Omega, it felt inevitable and uncertain at the same time. Full Gear 2021 wasn't just another pay-per-view. It was a reckoning. After 25 minutes of war, callbacks, near falls, and emotional storytelling, Hangman Page did what he once believed he never could. He defeated Kenny Omega and became AEW World Champion. The celebration wasn't loud. It was warm. Surrounded by the Dark Order, Hangman didn't just win a title. He won a battle with himself. This was the ending AEW had promised from day one. But wrestling never truly stops. Bryan Danielson immediately stepped forward as the next challenger. MJF began circling CM Punk. New debuts loomed. And while 2021 closed as AEW's strongest year to date, the cracks of 2022 were already forming beneath the surface. Still, for 1 year, everything worked. The stories mattered. The risks paid off. And All Elite Wrestling proved that patience, trust, and long-term vision could still thrive in modern wrestling. This wasn't just a year in review. This was the end of AEW's first era, and the beginning of something far more complicated.